I delivered Ethan's painkillers in the pouring rain. I heard him chatting with a friend. The friend said, "Ethan, you really play the part well, since the incident up until now. It's been 5 years in a wheelchair, right?" Sophia is quite confused too. She has taken care of you for 5 years. She actually never realized your legs are perfectly fine. Ethan said coldly. How many times has she braved the rain to deliver medication for you? I can't even remember. 98 times. So what do you care about her? Another voice paused for a moment. I don't. But after all, she is the girl you raised since childhood. Can you really bear to do that? If it weren't for her deliberately pretending to be sick that day, I wouldn't have missed the chance to win back Emily. This is the punishment she must accept. She has to finish 99 games to be done. Outside the door, I tightly held the painkillers. My heart ached so much that I could hardly breathe. I always thought Ethan didn't care about others' opinions. He wanted me to stay by his side because he liked me, but I didn't expect that. He was just trying to get back at me for being sick that day. It delayed his pursuit of Emily. You took care of me for 5 years. I'll pay you back in 5 years. After 99 times, we'll be even. No one owes anyone anything. From then on, we won't see each other again. I stayed in the hotel lobby for a while, waiting for my mood to settle down. Only then did I walk towards the private room again. After knocking on the door, there was a noise from inside. The smiles on everyone's faces disappeared. Sophia, why did you come so late? Ethan was sweating from the pain. If you don't want to take care of Ethan, just say so. If it weren't for you insisting on taking care of him back then, maybe his leg would have healed long ago. The tone of voice was the same as before. It was Ethan's best friend, Lucas. I ignored his strange tone. I walked directly up to Ethan. He looks pained. His forehead is covered in beads of sweat. He seems to be in a lot of discomfort, but I can smell a strong scent of alcohol on him. This is the same act he has performed in front of me 98 times before. Ironically, 5 years have passed, and I still didn't see through it. What are you still dazed for? Quick, get the medicine out. Lucas looked at me differently than usual. He directly grabbed my wrist and threw me aside. I fell heavily to the ground. The wound from being knocked down while rushing before opened up again. My knee hurts badly, but the pain in my heart is 10 times deeper. Ethan, you're really good at acting to punish me. He actually pretended to be disabled in a wheelchair for 5 years. Lucas, stop it. Ethan's voice pulled me back from my thoughts. I looked up and saw him in a wheelchair coming up to me, trying hard to help me up. Sophia, don't be angry. Lucas didn't mean it. He just cares about me too much. I declined his help. I forced a smile and said, "It's my fault for taking too long. You must be in pain." Hearing me say this, Ethan's expression immediately relaxed. I understand. My earlier actions made him suspicious. The Johnson family has a lot of power. I lived with the Johnson family for 5 years. Better than anyone, I know how formidable they are. If I don't cooperate with him in this act, the outcome could be worse than it is now. I handed the medicine to Lucas and reminded him to take good care of Ethan. Then I voluntarily left, because Ethan once said he didn't want me to see him taking medicine. It would make me sad, and my sadness would also make him unhappy. In fact, not only would I be sad, every time I turn around, I will silently pray. I hope he can recover his health, even if it means exchanging my life. I would be willing. I haven't gone far. I vaguely heard a burst of laughter from inside. Someone laughed and said, "Ethan, you saw it, right? We've successfully pranked her again. Next time, I'll definitely be better prepared. Just a scratch doesn't really mean recognizing the mistake. You have to cover all the drinks today. I even prepared a mysterious gift for you." Ethan thought for a moment. He said, "Just put it on my tab." I walked back, soaked to the skin. Their laughter kept echoing in my ears. With each step I took, my feelings for Ethan faded a bit. When I reached the entrance, I saw a woman dressed elegantly. I suddenly realized, this must be the gift Lucas prepared for him. "Miss, please step aside. You're blocking my way." I quickly stepped to the side. "Let her go in first. Wasn't it said that this is the best hotel? How come there are people dressed like this coming in? It's really uncomfortable." I thought she really came back, but as soon as she spoke, I knew it wasn't her. Emily grew up in a scholarly family. She definitely wouldn't say such things in public. Lucas found a fake stand-in for Ethan on the way back to the Johnson family villa. It was the first time I contacted my aunt abroad, 5 years ago, because I had to take care of the disabled Ethan. I declined the opportunity to go abroad with her. This time, she immediately agreed to help me establish a new identity. Before this, I just needed to stay the same. I just needed to focus on taking care of Ethan. But for the next 3 days, Ethan didn't show up at all. His assistant told me there was an urgent matter at the company. It had to be handled by him personally. Sophia, I've arrived at the location. After Ethan reached his destination. As usual, he called me. He said, when I'm not around, make sure to rest well. Don't run around everywhere. This is what we agreed upon before, no matter when. We should check in on each other. The year I first arrived at the Johnson family, I made plans to travel with a few classmates, but we were scared by the tour guide on the way, and were locked in a small dark room. He did everything he could, used all his connections, to finally find us, starving and with dark circles under our eyes. Since then, he has required me to call him every time I go out for all these years. He has kept this habit, but this time, I clearly heard a charming female voice on the other end. Ethan, come and take a look. You like this style, I'll wear it for you to see. Stop messing around. I helplessly hung up the phone. The appearance of this woman made Ethan's lies seem ridiculous. Since he can no longer move his legs, he never goes on business trips. And with the current status of the Johnson family, what problems could he possibly need to handle himself? Unless the Johnson family went bankrupt. I'm making the most of my time, preparing to leave while he's not around. The weather forecast says it will rain in 5 days. I've decided to leave the Johnson family that day. Ethan is back, and he brought that woman back to the Johnson family. Where have you been lately? The butler said you're always out and about. Ethan frowned, looking at me as I just walked in. I took out the herbal medicine package I carried with me, gently shook it. Recently, I found a nice little pharmacy. The doctor's skills are quite impressive. You came back just in time. Tonight, I'll prepare medicine for you to soak your feet. He stared at the medicine package for a while. I breathed a sigh of relief. The tense mood also relaxed. I handed the medicine package to the butler. Then I casually walked over and pushed him. Unexpectedly, the woman behind him pushed me away. Sophia, this is Isabella. Lucas hired her as my private doctor. From now on, she will be responsible for my daily care. Just do what she says. I listened to the lies he was casually making up. I couldn't help but smile wryly in my heart. Private doctor, or rather, a private lover. You must be Ethan's niece. Please take good care of me in the future. Ethan introduces me as his niece to others. My last name is Sophia. His last name is Ethan. He's not really my uncle at all. No uncle would hold his niece like that or even kiss her, since he no longer needs me. I consciously went upstairs. Yes, I am his niece. Ethan, I'm going up first. When mentioning the name Ethan, I deliberately raised my voice. He frowned upon hearing that. But until I went upstairs, he didn't say a word either. After a while, the sound of their laughter came from downstairs. Ethan, this is a medicinal dish I specially prepared for you. I'll feed you. You're really mischievous. Just eat properly. Why are you still biting my hand? Do I need to compensate you? Don't you have any sense of it? Do you want to try tonight? I tightly covered my ears. I turned the phone volume up to the maximum, but it still couldn't block out the sounds outside. In the end, I simply gave up. I let my tears soak the corners of the blanket. I just tightly covered my mouth, not allowing myself to cry out loud. I was 15 that year. My parents suddenly passed away. Mr. Johnson is my grandfather's old comrade. He brought me to the Johnson family and entrusted me to his youngest son, Ethan. I have always called him Ethan. For a full 5 years, he accompanied me through the difficult time of losing a loved one. He helped me attend parent-teacher meetings. He remembered my birthday. He always took me with him when he went out. Even during my period every month, he would make me ginger syrup. When I turned 18, I finally mustered the courage to confess my feelings to him, only to find out he already had a girlfriend. After he became disabled, we returned to the way we used to be. He would even take the initiative to kiss me. I thought I had finally found love. For 5 years, I devoted myself to taking care of him. Little did I know this was just a performance on his part. Yes, Ethan, it seems you've never said you love me. All of this was just my one-sided affection. I couldn't sleep all night. I woke up with swollen eyes. Then I saw Isabella walking out of his room in a loose nightgown. The hickeys on her neck and the expression in her eyes clearly indicated what happened between them last night. I saw this scene. Instantly, I was stunned. I thought I was fully prepared to leave, but when I saw it with my own eyes, my eyes couldn't help but feel sore. Ethan, how could you do this? Right in front of me, in the room next door, the cup in my hand fell to the ground with a bang. The shards cut my ankle. Ethan, hearing the noise, immediately ran out of the room. The moment he saw me, his expression turned frantic. He started to dodge. Sophia, don't panic yet. Let me explain clearly. Things are really not as you think. Isabella came to my room. She was just helping me massage my legs. Nothing else. You can go ask her. Isabella lazily yawned. Her tone was casual. That's right. I was just giving Ethan a massage. I clearly saw the provocation in her eyes. That's a woman's intuition. Seeing that I still didn't believe it, Ethan is angry. Why is your thinking so impure? What have you imagined treatment to be like? Isabella is a doctor. What should we do about work in the future? Do you not want my leg to recover? Every time Ethan speaks, it makes me feel even worse inside. Clearly, he was the one who made the mistake, but it ended up making me seem like I had a problem. Ethan, am I really that bad in your eyes? No wonder you think I was pretending to be sick that day. Not letting you go find Emily. He said in the end, apologize to Dr. Isabella. This sentence completely crushed my heart. I held back the pain inside. I bowed solemnly to Isabella. Dr. Isabella, I'm sorry, I wrongly accused you all. Ethan heard the satisfying answer. His expression has softened quite a bit. He waved his hand, letting Isabella go first. Then he turned to me and said, come here, I'll help you with the medicine. It was then that I noticed the wound on my foot had already stained my white slippers red. Ethan carefully helped me pick out the shards from my foot. His movements were as gentle as if he were handling a fragile treasure. For the past 5 years, whenever he was in a bad mood, he would scold me with the harshest words, making me feel worthless. But every time I wanted to leave, he would suddenly be nice to me, giving me a little sweetness. I looked at his serious face, with words in my heart that I couldn't express. I could only silently say to him, Ethan, I no longer want to eat the dates you give me. Because of my foot injury, I spent most of my time in the room. Suddenly, the butler knocked on the door. Isabella was standing behind him. Miss Sophia, the young master wants to ask you to switch rooms with Dr. Isabella. This will make it more convenient for his treatment. Butler, please replace all the furniture here with new ones. I have a cleanliness obsession. I don't like using things that have been used by others. I moved to the smallest room at the corner. I carefully organized the things Ethan gave me, one by one, watching the flames gradually consume them. Just like my feelings for Ethan completely disappeared as well. What are you burning? It's nothing. Just getting rid of some unnecessary things. The weather forecast says it will rain today. Isabella and Ethan left early this morning. The raindrops are pattering against the window. I tightly gripped my phone, silently waiting for the 99th call. The ringtone finally rang. The voice on the other end was still urgent, mixed with Ethan's muffled groans. Sophia, you need to hurry and deliver the medicine to Ethan. We are at 35 Riverside Drive. I take a deep breath. I reply softly, I'll be there soon. The rain is pouring heavily today, just like the day Emily left. Back then, I got soaked trying to help Ethan find the ring Emily dropped in the grass. I caught a fever from the rain, and today, I walked right into the trap Ethan set to punish me. On the other side, Ethan is leisurely drinking wine. Isabella wants to lean against him, but he coldly rejects her. She has learned to act a bit like that. She wouldn't do that. Isabella sits up straight awkwardly. Her expression is not very good. Lucas notices that the atmosphere is off, so he jokingly says, Ethan, this time I've prepared a big plan. I guarantee Sophia will regret stopping you back then. The thugs were arranged by me on purpose. But after this time, how do you plan to deal with her? Ethan fiddled with the wine glass, expressionless. The people around him suddenly held their breath. He said coldly, the punishment is over. I won't see her again. Lucas listened to this and clearly let out a sigh of relief. I arrived at Riverside Drive. I saw a narrow and dark alley. Number 35 is at the deepest part of the alley. I took a deep breath and stepped inside. With every step I took, I encouraged myself in my heart. Sophia, don't be afraid. Once today is over, you will be free. No matter how strict Ethan is, at most he'll only make you suffer a little. The pain will pass in a few days. I thought the situation wouldn't be that bad, but I was completely wrong. A group of people violently tore my clothes. Their hands roamed freely over my body. It was cold enough to make me shiver. Don't do this. Let me go. Ethan, I know I was wrong. Please forgive me, Ethan. I truly realize my mistake. I went from fierce resistance to becoming numb. I don't know how many of them there are. I just feel one after another coming in. For the first time, I regret falling in love with someone I shouldn't have. Is the video all set? The other party requested it in high definition, ensure the picture is clear, and only capture her front view. They complained, niece falling in love with uncle. These high-class people really go too far. Then, they spat at me and kicked me a few times, only reluctantly walked away. I lay there in a daze. After a while, the rain finally stopped. I got up. I casually grabbed my scattered clothes and put them on. Just as I stood up, the phone in my bag rang again. "Hello, Sophia. Why are you still not here?" I replied wearily. "I've arrived at 35 Riverside Drive." "You must have heard wrong. We're at 5 Riverside Drive. Did I hear incorrectly? You initially said it was 35. 5 and 35 are just one street apart, but the situations on either side are worlds apart." I handed Ethan's things to the club manager. I specifically told him this was urgently needed by the president of Johnson Group. "Miss, are you okay? Do you want me to take you to the hospital?" I forced a smile and shook my head, indicating no need, thank you, he said, then turned and picked up the phone to dial. I said to my aunt, "Aunt, I've taken care of everything on my end. Thank you for your hard work." After saying that, I threw my phone directly into the trash can. "Ethan, 99 rainy days have passed. From now on, we owe each other nothing, never to be seen again. Ethan, a young lady outside asked me to deliver the medicine to you." The manager gently knocked on the room's door. Ethan realized the person delivering the medicine wasn't me. His brow furrowed slightly. "Ethan, does Sophia not want to deliver medicine to you anymore? She's already at the door but hasn't come in. Is it because you've been too indulgent with her? She sounded very calm on the phone just now. I just sent a few people to scare her a bit." Lucas finished speaking. Ethan's expression grew worse. He uncrossed his legs, stood up. He said to his assistant, "Freeze all her cards." Later, he left with Isabella. He didn't notice Lucas secretly laughing behind him. When Ethan and Isabella returned to the villa, it was already the next day. The butler didn't prepare a wheelchair for him as usual. "Young master, you won't need it today. Miss Sophia has gone out. She didn't come back last night. We couldn't reach her by phone either. I wonder if something happened." "Just said that," Isabella said nonchalantly. "In this day and age, what could possibly happen? She probably got a boyfriend, or maybe she's still sulking, deliberately not coming back." The butler was about to speak. The assistant rushed over, interrupted him. "Ethan, something happened. Sophia committed suicide." Upon hearing this news, Ethan's body jolted. He widened his eyes, firmly grasped the assistant's hand, urgently asked, "What did you just say? Say it again." The assistant saw Ethan's expression, felt a bit scared, spoke with a trembling voice. "Sophia committed suicide. The police found her belongings by the river." After Ethan got confirmation, he released the assistant in disbelief. Her eyes are filled with despair. He murmurs to himself, "It's impossible. How could Sophia commit suicide? She is like a resilient cockroach, impossible to kill," she once said. "She looks down on those who choose to commit suicide." The police only found her belongings. What about the body? Has it been found? Isabella's question made Ethan turn to his assistant immediately. "Not yet." Sigh. Today's young girls really have their tricks. To think she would come up with using suicide as a performance. "Ethan, it's probably because you stopped her card yesterday." The young girl is a bit upset. Isabella's thoughts instantly wiped the sadness off Ethan's face. Only anger remained on his face. It seems that 99 punishments haven't changed her little thoughts. "I should have realized long ago that her nature is hard to change. Butler, inform everyone. Don't announce that my leg is fine yet. I need to teach her a lesson." "To give me a lesson?" "Ethan has been sitting in a wheelchair. Wait for me to come back. 1 day has passed. 2 days have passed. 3 days have passed." His expression has become increasingly indifferent. His mood is getting more and more irritable. Even Isabella doesn't dare to provoke him easily. 1 week later, the assistant sent him a surveillance video. He nervously clicked to open it. In the footage, a girl dressed in clothes he was very familiar with placed her belongings aside. Without hesitation, she climbed over the railing and jumped down. The police retrieved a severely swollen, unrecognizable female body from the river. At this moment, Ethan finally believed that I had really passed away. He held my body tightly in the morgue. No matter who tried to persuade him, he wouldn't let go. Eventually, Mr. Johnson personally intervened. He had people forcibly separate me from him. It wasn't until after the cremation that they handed him over to me. Ethan arranged a grand funeral for me. The day after the funeral, his legs could no longer stand. The doctor said it was a psychological issue, only when he comes to terms with it himself can he regain his spirits. Aunt, thank you. I excitedly hugged this relative I hadn't seen in 5 years. She didn't ask anything. She was just especially happy. As long as you arrived safely, that's good. These words made me unable to hold back my tears. If I had gone with her 5 years ago, perhaps there wouldn't have been those 99 punishments between Ethan and me. During that time abroad, I almost forgot about Ethan and forgot about those 99 punishments, but every time someone looked over, I would still instinctively look away. My body would tremble as well. I rarely go out these days. I stay at home all day. I didn't expect to pick up the studies I had abandoned in college. Eric, this is my sister whom I mentioned to you before. You think she is cute. Cousin William brought friends back again. I've been staying at home these days without going out. He is worried that I might feel lonely. He brings different friends every day to keep me company. Actually, I quite enjoy this peaceful and stable life now, so I just politely nodded and said hello. Tell me, it's you, the person standing across from me. He's the manager who helped deliver medicine to Ethan that day. I was a bit surprised. I asked him, "Are you not the manager of that club? What brings you here?" The person across from me didn't answer directly. Instead, he reached out his hand and greeted me again. Maybe I looked too much like a manager that day. The medicine you asked me to deliver, I have already handed it to the staff over there. Daniel introduced himself again. He saw me at my worst. I was originally worried he would spill my secrets. After a few tests, I found that he has strong principles in his work. The incident that day, I'm really sorry. It's okay, I just helped out casually. I don't mind anything else. SHH. Everyone has their own secrets. I quickly became close with Daniel. Perhaps it's because he has lived abroad for a long time. He always encourages me to try things I usually wouldn't dare to do. We went hiking and skiing together. We even tried bungee jumping. The extreme and exciting activities made my days very fulfilling. I no longer care about others' opinions. On his recommendation, I went to a local university for further studies. One day, a classmate invited me to participate in a psychological research study. It required consulting the city's most authoritative psychological expert. The scheduled time arrived, but the doctor suddenly said an important patient came in unexpectedly. The classmate took me to wait in the lobby. She asked me, "Sophia, you know who that patient is?" The doctor never takes in patients added at the last minute. He particularly hates things outside of his work schedule. I gently shook my head with a smile, but in that moment, I saw someone I never wanted to see again. It was Ethan. It turned out that the doctor's patient was him. No wonder he could make this stubborn and conservative person change his schedule. But what kind of problem could he have that required him to see a psychologist abroad? Although I was filled with surprise and questions, I quickly turned around, not wanting him to see me. "Sophia, he is really handsome. It's a pity he has a disability." As soon as my classmate's voice rang out, the sound of the wheelchair rolling behind me immediately stopped. I felt like I was pricked with a needle on my back. I didn't dare to move at all. After a long while, I heard the sound of the door closing. Only then did I slowly relax. I made an excuse about feeling unwell and quickly left that place. Ethan's appearance reminds me of those unpleasant memories. I stayed at home for a full 3 days. Only then did I muster the courage to go out. I think 3 days is enough time. Ethan should have resolved any issues by now. When I reached the school gate, I looked around, then cautiously opened the car door. As soon as my foot touched the ground, I heard a familiar voice behind me. I felt my mind go blank. My body felt as if it were frozen in place. "Sophia, you can't escape." I was stunned for a while. It wasn't until Ethan appeared in front of me that I snapped back to reality. I closed the car door, silently gazing at him across the way. It had only been a month. Ethan has lost quite a bit of weight. His already stern face looked even more chiseled. His eyes were red. He looked both angry and somewhat surprised. I calmed down. I said in a cold tone, "I don't need to escape, because I've already won. No matter how powerful the Johnson family is, they can't quietly take a living person abroad. Sophia, you have quite a bit of nerve. You dare to leave the Johnson family without my permission. I spent 5 years in the Johnson family. I took care of you for 5 years. Isn't that enough to repay your kindness? Do you think you're a nanny?" He retorted to me. I let out a cold hum. What else, to be honest? I'm not even as good as a nanny. At least a nanny doesn't have to play those punishing games with the owner. After saying that, I don't care how angry Ethan is. I went straight to the school. Just a few steps in, the butler and assistant stopped me. I asked them, "What do you want? This is not the Johnson family. Step aside," the butler said softly. "Miss Sophia, the young master misses you very much." "That's right. Ethan is particularly eager to see you." I saw them refusing to back down. I returned to Ethan's side. "Let's go back to the Johnson family. He thinks I gave in." I suppressed the anger inside me. I rushed over quickly, while they were still caught off guard. I suddenly overturned the wheelchair. Ethan didn't have time to prepare. He fell directly to the ground. "Young master, Ethan, what are you doing?" The butler hurriedly helped Ethan up from the ground. He looked at me with a puzzled expression. I stared at Ethan, who was leaning on the butler and looking very disheveled. Finally, I couldn't hold back anymore. "Ethan, stop pretending. 5 years have passed. Are you still not angry? How long do you plan to keep this up? Your leg is perfectly fine." As I said this, my voice couldn't help but tremble. "It's been 5 years. You really cooperate well together." I had just finished speaking. Everyone present was stunned. In these past 5 years, each of them has mocked me, but I don't intend to let it go. "Grandpa Butler, you watched me stab myself with a needle. Did you find it quite interesting, Assistant Chen? I ask you to take good care of him every time I go out. You think I'm a bit silly, Ethan? I give you massages and foot baths every day. I even bring you medicine in heavy rain. Do you feel particularly comfortable? Every time I say something, the anger on their faces diminishes a bit, and their remorse increases a bit. But what good is more remorse? If apologies could solve problems, then what do we need the police for in the end?" I let out a cold laugh. "Your false sincerity is truly nauseating. I thought exposing their scheme would allow me to escape, but the assistant blocked my way again. Speak. You can't leave. Ethan needs you." He had the bodyguard next to him grab my hand, trying to forcibly drag me away. This scene reminds me of that rainy day. Fear spreads from my heart to my whole body. I struggle desperately, disregarding everything. "Even if it hurts me, I don't care. Let go of me. I was wrong. Please, let me go." Noticing my distress, Ethan immediately signaled the bodyguard to stop. He quickly turned the wheelchair, trying to get closer to me. He asked with concern, "Sophia, are you okay? Don't be afraid. I won't hurt you." "But Ethan, what I truly fear is you, because the one who hurts me is you. Don't touch her." I try hard to avoid Ethan's approach. Suddenly, I felt someone push me from behind. I turned around and fell into a warm embrace. I looked up. It turned out to be Daniel. "Who are you? What do you plan to do to my sister? Stop your actions immediately, otherwise I won't be polite to you." My cousin William suddenly stood between me and Ethan. His tone was very unfriendly. Ethan withdrew his hand that hadn't touched mine. He straightened his disheveled suit. He began to explain, "You must be William. I'm Ethan from the Johnson family." He thought moving out of the Johnson family would help, but William didn't take it seriously at all. I wondered who it was. Turns out it's that Ethan who pretended to be lame for 5 years. "Why are you still in a wheelchair? Could it be that you got too into playing the cripple?" William's words made Ethan's face suddenly turn ugly. "Sister, do you and Ethan have more to discuss? If there's nothing else, let's go home together. My mom wants to see you." I got up from Daniel's arms. I said to him seriously, "No, I have no relationship with the Johnson family anymore. Did you hear that? Ethan, my sister doesn't want to talk to you. We're in a hurry to go home. Let's go. That's all." He pulled me away. Ethan sat silently in his wheelchair. I vaguely heard him say something as I got in the car. "Sophia, do you not like me anymore?" I answered softly in my heart, "I don't like you anymore, and I don't dare to like you anymore." In the car, Daniel and William were both silent. I understood. They were all waiting for me to speak first. "Cousin, how do you know about Ethan's situation? You and Aunt didn't mention this at all." The tense atmosphere in the car suddenly eased. William spoke up. His tone clearly showed displeasure. "You think we don't know anything? If I see him again next time, I will have to teach him a good lesson. I'll go with you. I'll make sure to deal with him so that even you won't recognize him." After listening to what those two said, I couldn't help but laugh out loud when I saw Ethan again. My worries had lessened quite a bit. The feeling of having someone around is really warm. Since then, Daniel and William took turns taking care of me. Every time I went out, Ethan would show up right on time. He didn't say much. He just quietly pushed my wheelchair and followed me. At first, we all didn't want to pay attention to him, but he kept causing trouble. Daniel and William's phones didn't stop ringing, even though they kept reassuring me that they could handle it. The worry on their faces was hard to hide. I told them, If you have things to do, go ahead. I will stay home obediently. I won't go anywhere. Then promise me, you absolutely won't go out. I definitely won't leave. After they walked far away, I immediately called Ethan in the cafe. Ethan is sitting in a wheelchair. He is holding a small bunch of lilies. He saw that I had arrived. He handed the flowers to me. He said, "Sophia, this is for you. I tricked you. I'm really sorry, and I regret it a lot. Can you forgive me?" I casually placed the flowers aside. I replied offhandedly, I forgive you. Can you disappear from my sight, Ethan? Let's go back." His face first showed joy, but it quickly turned to despair. "I don't want to go back alone. Sophia, I love you. After you left, I suffered every day. I waited 10 years for this confession. I didn't expect to hear it at this moment. I imagined countless times when he finally said this sentence, how happy I would be. I didn't expect everything to be so calm. Ethan, I loved you for 10 years. You actually knew it a long time ago, right? You never valued my feelings before. Now you say you love me, but I no longer have feelings for you, and I don't like you anymore." My words surprised him greatly. I accidentally knocked over the cup of water in front of me. He said nervously, "No, I don't know. I thought I had always loved Emily. You don't know my pain, so you can hurt me at will now that you know the truth. Yet you act as if nothing happened, and still ask me to continue loving you. Ethan, there's no such good thing in this world. You've taken all the advantages." I immediately responded, "You arranged 99 punishments. Haven't I completed them all? Do you understand how I felt after finishing the 99th time? You won't forgive me just because of those little jokes. Isn't it just that you got a little wet in the rain? Do you really need to be like this? The day Emily left, weren't you also out in the rain with a fever? You managed to stop me." It turns out in his eyes, "These are just trivial matters. You want me to forgive you, all right. You dare to open the video Lucas sent you. Don't you always record it every time?" Hearing my request, Ethan opened his phone without hesitation. The inappropriate words coming from the phone caught the attention of others in the cafe. If it weren't for Ethan's relentless pursuit, I wouldn't be forced to reopen healed wounds. How could this happen? How could this happen? You are just as you see. I was violated. Do you think we can still be together? I asked Ethan. He was momentarily at a loss for words, not knowing how to respond. After a while, his eyes became wild. "It's Lucas. Lucas lied to me. He just told them to stop you. I'm going to settle the score with him. Sophia, he deceived me all along. I will help you get justice." Watching him distance himself completely, I don't want to show him any mercy anymore. If it weren't for you always letting him be, Lucas wouldn't be so reckless. Without your nod of approval, how could Isabella possibly enter the Johnson family? After all of this is caused by you. It's all your ridiculous decision of 99 punishments' fault. I have grievances against Lucas, but I'm even angrier at you. Ethan finished his last sentence and fell from the wheelchair. He pushed himself up with both hands and slowly crawled towards me. "Sophia, please don't hate me. I'll do anything you ask me to." That's when I realized his legs really couldn't move. Otherwise, someone of his status could never act so convincingly, but I no longer want to continue asking. I have only one request. Please leave me alone. Never show up again. Ethan's hand slid down from beside my leg. In that moment, he looked utterly hopeless. His entire being exuded a deep sense of despair. Suddenly, I felt, the Ethan who once seemed radiant and untouchable was actually just like this. "All right, let's do it your way." Those words seemed to drain all his strength. After Ethan finished speaking, he collapsed weakly onto the ground. Hearing his response, I immediately stood up and left without looking back. The moment I walked out of the cafe, I felt as if I had shed a heavy burden. Even my breathing became lighter. I knew I had completely let go of Ethan. "Is everything taken care of?" Daniel suddenly appeared from the side. I looked at him in surprise. My eyes were filled with confusion. "Don't ask anymore. I'll tell you directly. I'm not your brother, that honest guy. It's not so easy to trick me. I waited for you by the door the whole time." Daniel said seriously, "If I never came out, you would just keep waiting." I asked him, "Wait one more minute. I will rush in and rescue you." Hearing this, I couldn't help but laugh. The words I had kept inside for a long time suddenly came out. "Daniel, you have feelings for me. You finally understand. But the past is the past. Now I am your future." Daniel told me. He was attracted to me the first time he saw me at the club. I looked quite disheveled back then. Yet I insisted on delivering the medicine. He thought it was some life-saving drug. When he opened it and took a look, It turns out it was just ordinary vitamins labeled as painkillers. We were originally just acquaintances. I never expected I would be William's cousin. As we spent more time together, his curiosity grew stronger. Later on, our feelings slowly turned into deep love. He grew up abroad. He didn't care about my past at all, and that's how we naturally came together. Ethan eventually disappeared completely from my life. On the day I married Daniel, I received a package. Inside was only a note and a news report. I promise you we won't meet again. Wishing you a happy marriage. The group of troublemakers has already been caught. They were given heavy sentences. The Lucas family went bankrupt. After returning to the country, Ethan deliberately set a trap for Lucas. Lucas happily jumped right in, only to find himself falling into a big pit. Before Isabella gave it to Ethan, she was actually Lucas's woman. They originally planned for Isabella to get pregnant, to ascend in status, so the first to deal with is me. Observers see the truth clearly. Lucas has long noticed that Ethan feels differently about me, but Ethan himself is unaware of it. In other words, we were actually in love before. Thinking of this conclusion, I feel very helpless. If it was truly love, how could one not know after all? It might be that the love wasn't deep enough. I threw them aside. Not only did I not feel relieved, instead I felt bored. Why are you still dazing here? The wedding is about to start. You're not thinking of backing out. Are you? Daniel is nervously staring at me. How could that be, Mr. Daniel? Please take care of me in the days to come. Okay, please take care of me in the days to come as well. He stands in front of the window, watching the raindrops hit the glass outside, feeling a bit restless inside, but can't quite explain why. The phone rang. He took a glance. It was her number. He hesitated for a moment, but still answered. Her voice came through on the other end. She sounded a bit tired. He asked her what was wrong. She was silent for a while, then said she wanted to see him. He agreed. After hanging up the phone, he felt even more uneasy inside. He knew some things might never go back to how they were.